Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Book to Block, the series where I bring my fantasy novel life in Minecraft, one block at a time. In the last episode, we worked on the wall out here, but only the exterior of it. I gotta get the thickness of it as well as the top built on. So the first thing we're gonna do in today's episode is gonna finish off these walls. As you can see, I've already gone along and done the lighting, kind of at the end of my episode. I did a little bit of a short of that. I kind of did every other one that has these chisel blocks on the top. So it's a little bit more spread out, not too condensed of light. It looks a lot better at night that way. I'm going to finish off the walls and then we can come to the front and do these kind of gatehouses. Because you can't have just like an open entrance, anyone can come into the city. You got to have a little bit of protection. So I'm going to do a nice little gatehouse on this side as well as the other side. They'll be probably very similar. And then another small one near that lava lake that comes off the volcano, just so we can have a little exit on that side, because in the story where I wrote this whole fantasy novel, there is a little entrance that way that the main character does take in the story. So let's get to finishing off these walls first. And here we are. So we've gone around. I didn't show all of it in the time lapse because it's just very similar. So for this whole thing, I've got it, it's hollow. So if I ever need to kind of have something in the center, I can go along with that. But it's very plain for now. Kind of went with just this polished black stone for the main part. And then anytime there was like kind of a step up, I went with the polished black stone. So the bricks here, just for a little bit of a variation. I didn't do it to everywhere, so I can go back and kind of do a little bit more detail, but there's plenty of detail that can be added to this back of the wall. I didn't want to add too much detail because the problem I made with this kind of the front bit was it took me far too long for something that's not really seen too much. I also kind of went along and added in the bottom bits. If you saw maybe in a couple of the time lapses, the technique I was using didn't all the way build to the bottom, so I had to go around and manually place those in. So the kind of technique I went with, I'll come over here where we have a little bit of a gap. All I did was I came over, I built out 3 of these slabs here, and then built down to the ground like this. I went down with the clone tool. Here, I'll slow down my speed here. And then I selected like this. I didn't have these bits in, so I'll remove those. So if I go like this, and then all I did is as I walked, I placed like this. And then that kind of just gets you your inner wall. As you can see here, it doesn't build all the way down to the bottom because it's only copying what you already built. So I just had to kind of make my way through, make small adjustments as I went. I'll fill this back in over here. And that's kind of how I got the whole thing. So that kind of saved me a bit of time instead of having to build it all manually. Alright, so next thing, we've got to come over to the entrances. So the first one is here, and then I mentioned I'll do a small one on this area where Lava Lake is. And then finally, I'll have to burst open a nice little area over here for when I get the tunnel, so this can be like the entrance to the outside world. So let's get to designing these kind of little towers and guard posts and such. Alright, and here we are. So I've got a bit of detail going in with this gate. So I went with 2 kind of towers either side connected with like a little bridge over top here. And a nice big gate that I've kind of left a little bit of a jar. I didn't want to have it completely open or completely closed, just a little bit of life brought to it like this. I didn't include it in the time lapse, but I added a little bit of detail with these deep slate tiles, just so it's not so plain. And you can see it'll connect up here. And then we got little windows. It went around with lighting when it was night. So I just pop over into night just to get a little bit of detail with the lighting so that it's kind of consistent and you can kind of see everything throughout. I then went in with my little statues, one either side. So as you come through the gate here, You got your 2 statues either side. Might do something. So he's maybe like resting on a pile of the stones instead of just floating like that, just to make it a little more natural. Don't have too much detail on the back right now. I'll work on that a little bit later. But I got these kind of little doorways, and then just a little kind of staircase all the way up. Here's the window at the front. Goes to this side of the wall. And you can come up. You can either go all the way up to the kind of roof of the tower to watch over throughout, or you can stop and cross over here above the gate, and then it hops over into the other one, so you can easily get between each side of the kind of walls here. I did, before starting, I kind of redid a little bit of the wall, so it was a little bit more brought in, because at first these were very offset, and it just wasn't working for the kind of gate I wanted. So I kind of just brought this back, brought this forward a little bit, messed around with the height, just so it was a little bit more smooth throughout. So the next thing to do is to do the same, but on the other side. So I'm not sure if I'm going to just copy it straight over. Maybe I'll make it slightly larger, since that's more of a more used kind of gateway, because it's towards the outside world. So we'll get a lot of the travelers and that kind of stuff coming through this side. With it being kind of on an angle, because here's going to be the entrance to the tunnel, so it'll come along here. I might be able to just drag it along here and then kind of use this so I can get a kind of flat like I did on the other side. And then same for this one. So this one's going to have maybe like a little bridge over top, kind of like a portcullis kind of thing, just to so you can't get through this way, even though the lava kind of stops that place. If they can kind of shimmy their way around, I want to kind of keep it protected in that way. Still got one spare of my statue here, so I can add more, maybe do a different one for the other side, or just keep these as kind of like placeholders for now until I get a better looking one. But I think that's good for this one, so let's move on to the next. Alright, and that's another one of the gates. So as you can see, I've put a lot more effort into this one, spent a little bit more time doing the detailing and such. As you saw in the time lapse, I kind of built with the stone bricks and then colored into the dark, like the black stone, the polished bricks. But after that, it felt just too flat. So I went in with the deep slate bricks. And that kind of just highlights the whole build. It allows it just a little bit more pop of color to it. So I went around, and if we fly all the way over to this gate over here, I did the same thing. So I added in a bit more detail. You can see like these little stairs and walls, and then just went in with this polished deep slate for this one, because this one was the polished blackstone, and just added in a little bit of highlighting to the whole thing. It just helps a little bit, make it look a little less flat. Thinking about it, I might go around and do a little bit of that on this kind of wall here, just to tie it all together. Next, I've got to bring up this path, so I'm going to continue this on until it gets to around here. I've kind of have to figure out how I want to do the blending between the grass and then the blackstone, because I don't want it to be like this. I kind of want it to be like tendrils kind of growing out, killing everything in the way. And then on the edge, I'm not going to have the grass. I'm actually going to use something like this coarse dirt, just to make it look like nothing can grow in that area. Even if there is some dirt left, it's kind of just been killed and no grass can grow on it anymore. So next up is the final gate of this one. I did plan to have one more all the way on this side, but I think I'll leave that for maybe later, or if I even do it at all. Since I am in the draft phase of writing my book, things can be changed. I don't have to follow exactly for this world, but this kind of building in the Minecraft world of this, it's really helped me kind of get perspective of it. I'm currently
going over doing my like kind of second draft of the book. I haven't finished it. I'm only about 50 chapters in, and I'm just re-going from the start because I missed a lot of like the backstory since it was my first time writing a book. I'm getting into the flow of like what needs to be added, what things need to be detailed in, sort of thing. So as I kind of build this up, I might change things up as I get to like the end of one project as I'm writing. Because right now, I'm currently rewriting the kind of starter village arc of the story. So leaving the starter village, if we can get that to load over here. Where are you hiding? So kind of getting the story of what's going on in here, and I'm kind of up to around leaving the starter villages where I've kind of redone in the book, kind of in my second draft. So I've got plenty of time before I get to writing into the main city, but it's given me a lot of chances to think about little details that work a lot better because I have built it in Minecraft. It's really been a great kind of exercise in creativity, and I just really enjoy doing this. So let's get on to the final gate of this video, and then we'll see what else we need to add.
Alright, and here is the final gate. So I went for a little bit of a smaller gate because this one isn't well traveled as much as the other two, like the one coming from the village in the mountains, and then the one coming from outside the region. So this one's just a small little checkpoint. Got a nice little gate here again, going with these iron bars and then little slots for them to land in when it's closed. Little guard's desk for someone to kind of keep an eye out for any dangers so they can shut the gate if need be. Put a little bit of a gate over the lava. Not that any person would be able to get through this area, but there are some creatures that can live in the lava that might try and get through. So this is kind of just a little deterrent to keep them out of the city. So maybe just finish this up, keep this consistent. And when I was going around the back here, I was thinking I really want to add more detail to the back of this kind of wall here. So kind of continuing off of what I did on this gate with the deep slate, I think I'm going to add a bit of color to the back. Because I've got the detail on the front, I would like maybe to do a bit more detailing using a different color, but since the back is a little bit more plain, I think I'm going to work on that next. So I'm going to go around. I might use these kind of points where I've got the chains on the front and mirror on the back, kind of like what I've done here, but instead using the deep slate instead of the polished black stone bricks. So let's get to doing that. Alright, so here is the kind of design. I went and did a couple different little time-lapse bits just to show the different process of it. So I've gone along, these ones are easy because they're on a flat surface, but as they get to a kind of angled, it's a bit more difficult to get like this kind of for the stairs on the top, and then how I did the walls, like a little bit of depth. So I'll have to figure out, do that little bit by little bit. It's just gonna take way too long to squeeze it into this episode. So I just kind of marked out each of the places where I want kind of the line to be, where it kind of lines up with the chain bit on the outside. So I've gone around and done that on each of them. You can kind of see, it'll slow down a little bit. And there it is. So I've done a little bit different for these ones because the width is slightly different between the two posts. So I'll have to go around, do them for each bit. And whilst I was kind of doing that, I was also rereading a bit of my novel to get a bit of information. Funny thing is, when I was going for this, I read in the book that I said he exits out of the northern gate. And the funny thing is, if I use F3 here, you can kind of see I'm actually facing north. It's kind of on the left side just below the XYZ.
So you can kind of see this is actually the north gate, so didn't actually plan that, but it turned out perfectly well for that. So I got a little lucky on that one. All right, the kind of last thing for this video, I'm going to do a little bit of the pathing. Like right now I've got it kind of marked out with the block of amethyst just so I can easily see where I want the path, but I've got to choose the kind of path that I want to be used. So I don't think I'm going to go with this one because I use it quite a bit in the actual builds itself, so it's a little bit too used already, and I don't want it to kind of feel like it's blending in with like the walls and such. So I've got the polished basalt, smooth basalt, and regular basalt. Because I basically use all of the different variations of blackstone in the walls or the guard towers themselves. So I'm thinking of using one of these three. These technically are what volcanoes would produce instead of the blackstone usually. I just thought that the blackstone looks a lot better having the dark volcano instead of this lighter gray that's produced from the basalt. So I've got to kind of choose which of these three I want to have as like the flooring, like little roads that they've kind of built. So I don't want it to be too blending in with the kind of blackstone of the whole thing. Because if we head over here to like the pathing, you can definitely see where the path is in the village. So you know where to walk from like a bird's eye view. So I kind of want to copy that mentality of having a visible road that's slightly different, if not completely different. So the problem with all of these is that there's also a variation on its side. So if I go smooth basalt's the only one that has the same texture on all four sides. So looking at these, this one is pretty much, is it actually the same? It's basically the exact same, so we won't worry about the side of this one. And then this one, it's a little too kind of straight, so if I had to make a curve, it would look very odd like that. So we're gonna turn these ones so it's not that or that. So it's between these two. And since the side doesn't matter for this one, it's just the top of the basalt or just the smooth basalt. So if you have a better idea, it's going to be easy to kind of replace it as I go. So I think I'm going to go for the top of the basalt just because it kind of mixes well with the texture of the black stone itself. It's kind of the rocky feel to it instead of the smooth. But if you think that the smooth basalt might look a little better, leave a comment and I can easily change it and see how it looks and get your opinions on that. So let's go around, paint out some of the roads kind of connecting on the outskirts of this, and we'll see how that looks. And that might be it for this episode. So let's get to that first and then look over that. Alright, here we are. So we've got the pathing kind of dealt with for this. Grabbed a little bit over here for this gate. Gone through, kind of matched up to where approximately the center will be. So it'll continue on and then big tunnel here. So that goes into here. I didn't do all of it just because I still have to plan certain builds around here. So there's no point in putting a permanent path in place. Got this one coming through here. I've just got to match up a couple of these, make it look like this is where it's traveled, kind of like that. Want to make sure it's the right orientation of it. And then I kind of put a little pile so he's kind of sitting on something, and I think I figured out why I don't like this. The leg is far too short for how big this body is. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to chop out a couple blocks, probably 3 to 4 blocks, and lower everything down. Thankfully, I've got some space for where this axe is, so I can bring everything down without destroying what's already built, and then it'll be a little bit better proportioned, as well as it'll be a little bit shorter, so it doesn't ironically, it doesn't dwarf the size of this gate up here. But I think that is enough for today's episode. Got quite a bit done, got these 3 different gate types done, and I think I like how much the work I did on them. I wasn't really too proud of how I did these walls because the lack of detail, but I think adding this color, especially like on the back here, this is really going to make it look a lot better, a lot more detail into this world. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more episodes coming soon. Until next time.